Audience ready. Go ahead. Angela.
Lonely stranger. At the conclusion of my speech, I hope to have given you insight on the realities of the world in the eyes of evil. In the world today, things are not as simple as they once were. Unfortunately, fairy tales do not always exist, for there are things and people who, for reasons unknown, do hurtful acts. Although you do not always hear about it, several cases are reported each day. Today I'd like to talk to you on a serious note about sexual abuse and the effects of this crime. The three elements of abuse that I will be discussing today are physical, mental, and emotional abuse. I believe that the three points that I had mentioned to you, there are those types of abuse as well as those effects that you get from sexual abuse. I have here a little highlighted section. It does tell you that between 500 to 100,000 children are involved in prostitution and pornography in the country. A high percentage of them which are victims of incest. Of the three elements, I will be talking to you first about the mental effect. With mental effects of sexual abuse, there are several characteristics that you will seem to find when you are a victim. I will be telling you a lot of personal experiences, as myself was a victim of sexual abuse for 5 years. A characteristic of sexual abuse is I have a hard time working under normal conditions as I would in stressful environments. I seem to have a better look on things when I'm put under stress rather than if I was sitting in a normal environment. I also have a tendency to have sporadic mood changes, which a lot of sexual abuse victims will have. In such cases, a simple little touch or simple gesture or even any type of expression or any type of wording can cause me to basically become a bipolar person and go from a really happy person to a really upset person. Or it can cause me to become very, very frightful and very fearful to the point where I don't even want to leave my house. Another effect is an emotional effect. A lot of abuse victims become severely depressed to the point where they may have to be sent to rehab. It's very, very hard to talk about, so I'm trying to work through this as best as I can. In my personal experiences, I do not get very, very big cases of severe depression. I actually have what you call highs and lows, where I can go through very long periods of time with no problem, no depression or whatnot, but then I tend to have a night where I think very, very depressing thoughts. I've had suicidal thoughts. I've thought that perhaps it was better for me not to be here. And then by the next morning when I've gone to bed, I wake up and I act like as if nothing has even happened. Another emotional effect is fear. A lot of abuse victims have gathered fear in the sense that they have a hard time leaving their house, they have a hard time going out into public, or they tend to also be very quiet even if they're in a classroom environment. I have some fears, I have some small claustrophobias where I can't be in very big places such as concerts or the mall because I get very, very close to basically having a panic attack where people around me are just, I get really flustered and aggravated. The third physical effect is physical. This one to me has been the very, very hardest of abuse and sexual abuse. There are some cases of, it's called self-mutilation, where a person does harm to themselves by cutting themselves. They always tend to cover it up by wearing long sleeves, but if you ever see somebody who self-mutilates, it's basically you see a lot of scars, and they like to take a lot of knives or sharp objects and basically cut themselves. And the reason why they do this is because they think that it'll give them some kind of make them feel better. The other biggest effect that I noticed with the physical effect on sexual abuse is that you have a hard time interacting with others. This can be in so many different, there's so many different, I'm trying to think of the word. It's expanding is what I'm trying to say, is interacting with others in the sense that certain things that you say can bother me. I have a really hard time having a really close relationship with my husband. Sometimes he touches me in a certain way that gives me flashbacks and I refrain. Communication also has a very big, there's also a very big loss of communication because I tend to have a very big wall, and in this wall I don't let anybody go through, and a lot of times you will sense that something's wrong with me, but then I won't tell you what's wrong. I will tell you everything is okay when actually there's something really wrong, but I have a very hard time talking about it. So I am going to be reading you a poem that I actually wrote. During the times of my abuse, I used to write a lot of poems and I had a hard time sleeping at night. So the poems to me kind of helped me get through my abuse. So my poem is called The Past Haunts You. I close my eyes every once in a while and flashbacks run through my head back and forth. Tears falling down my ever-changing eyes. My past haunts me continuously, no matter how good or bad my life seems to be in the years that has gone by. I see my stepfather on top of me, beating every year of happiness that we had when I was young into me. I see my fragile mother throwing a Tabasco bottle past my face and into the window because her heart has been torn bit by bit. Excuse me. And my sister, I see fear in her eyes when the devil comes at night wanting more of my young juices. And she knows she couldn't do anything or had no clue of what to do because she was so young and so clueless. My brother, who always had lots to say but never spoke out because it was bottled deep down inside in his jar of emotions. I sit back and remember the handfuls of guys and girls I let into my dead body. I think and see all their faces flash by my face and wonder, where did I go wrong? I look into my son's face and see the father he never had by his side, and a deep pain hits me like a brick in the wall. I fall to my knees and ask God, what did I do wrong? Why me? I did the right thing, didn't I? I just cover my face and watch the blood from my scorned heart fall down and paint the black road red. The past haunts you everywhere you go, every corner of the street you lurk, and you learn that each mistake made creates a pathway to a different life that you seek, the pathway to perfection. Please learn that every mistake made helps you from preventing the same one over and over again, and no matter how rough the thorns are, things do tend to go better as the day goes by. Read this carefully and with both eyes open and learn from my words and pass it to those who you care most about. Sexual abuse still continues to this day, and unfortunately there are still several unreported cases that are being committed. I hope that my personal experiences gave you insight on this heinous crime. The physical, mental, and emotional effect it does to these victims, such as myself, and always remember that no matter what negative things you encounter in life, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.